Alright, hey guys, so now we're talking about Microsoft Word. So I'm sure almost all of you have actually used Microsoft Word before. It's very common software, obviously. But in this lesson, I actually want to go through some features that I think a lot of times are skipped out, but are actually very handy to know about and use. And so I'm just going to quickly highlight some of these. So obviously, you guys know this is a word processing application, so obviously you write up things and put in references, probably the way that you're used to submitting a lot of your homework and things of that sort as Word documents. But there's actually a lot of things that are built into Word to actually make it in many ways easier for you to do it. So first of all, let's just start at the basics. So obviously we have all of these different options, from inserting different pictures and images and hyperlinks and things of that sort. We'll get to that in a bit. To page layouts, creating watermarks and all this sort of stuff. Margins are particularly important. References we're going to get to. You can actually do mail merging. I'm not going to get into this one in this class, but this is actually a pretty handy thing just to remember. If you ever have like a list of people that you need to send out like an email to or something else, you basically can create an Excel spreadsheet and then link up those things within Microsoft Word, and it'll auto-populate names and email addresses and send all the stuff out for you. So very handy tool, actually. Then obviously it's got things like grammar and thesaurus and word count and things like that. We're going to go into great detail about this thing of track changes actually within the review. And then view, this is just kind of making it easier for you to see the pages and things of that sort, however you might like reading it. There are a variety of add-ins that you can actually develop here. This is from actually an Adobe program, and this is a reference management, and then again another Adobe program. So there's lots of things. I'm sure a lot of you know how to edit your fonts just by selecting these different types of fonts and editing stuff that way, or perhaps editing your paragraphs just by clicking here. You can get into stuff related to spacing and all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, those are stuff I'm kind of assuming that you already know about. So one of the things that I think are important for you to also recognize. So actually one of the first things I want you to notice is a lot of people actually forget this little thing up here, the style section, and it's actually surprisingly a very handy tool to actually use this. So notice here there's all these different names like heading, levels, numbers, things of this sort. This is actually a very nice way to make sure you keep a nice style, same form going on throughout. So what you can see here is there are different style sets that change how your paper is organized and set up, right? So for example, right now I've got one that's kind of custom made, but say I want to take one of the ones from here. You can see here, if I click on this distinct one, I've now changed all of my formats, which included my fonts and other sorts of things for my headings, and then for all of my normal text, just through this simple act of changing this style set here. And so this is, again, just a really handy thing for you to think about using. Like say you want to write everything in manuscript, so you want everything to be double spaced. You can just quickly go to that within this. The important thing though is if you have things labeled in here appropriately as its type of thing, like a header, or notice here this is normal text, quote unquote. So if you actually have all this properly matched within here, you can change all of this stuff very quickly, and it'll automatically change everything for you, including fonts. You can quickly switch the type of fonts you want working within this, and paragraph spacing and all this sort of stuff. As long as you properly label it within this style, it makes it much, much easier to make sure you have a consistent form going throughout the paper. So just something I wanted to highlight and emphasize, that this is a tool that a lot of times people don't use, but it's very handy. Some other people also might wonder, sometimes you're stuck with certain colors within an office and you're wondering, why can't you do that? Well, that's actually because there's color themes. So you might be noticing as I'm clicking through this, you see down here, actually you see all these color changes that are actually going on right with this graph, right? When I go through these styles, it's actually linked up here with these color themes, and you can actually create your own color themes for whichever accents you want. So this also translates into Excel as well. So this is actually an Excel spreadsheet that I pulled over. We're going to get to that. That's in the other lesson about Excel and how to make these sorts of graphs. But you can easily copy and paste them into here. Use these sorts of, again, same thing where you have these styles and layouts and things of that sort. But these things are all integrated. So styles is a really handy tool that I think a lot of people don't use. So in your homework assignment, you'll see that I actually have you think about using styles. I want you to use a title for it. I want you to use the heading format, and then I want you to use the normal text at the very least. You can even get into subheadings too, like you'll notice here in this paper, this is a heading for us, but then this is a subheading, heading 2. You see how I switched from that. So you could even get into those as well, and you can pick whatever style you want, but this will just be a nice way for you to get used to doing that. So, okay, that's one thing I wanted to touch on. So now, next thing I wanted to actually discuss is this idea of track changes. You guys might have used track changes before, but a lot of times I don't think people fully use the advantages of track changes. So I'm going to show you this. I'm showing you guys a paper that my colleagues and I were working on recently, and we recently submitted. So you can see here in this draft, that last one I showed you was the final draft. This was a much earlier draft, and you can see we wrote a lot in this, whereas you probably can't even really read a lot of what's going on within here. Because of this. So this is due to track changes. So track changes is a really handy feature actually to help you understand, what's going on, particularly if you're working on a draft with other people. So some important things to note, there are these quick things. So say for example, you want to keep all your track changes underneath, but you don't want to see it. You can actually switch up these different versions. You can also set it up so that maybe you want to see the original one first and then see the changes from that. That's what this would be. The original versus original plus markup. So I tend to stay on final plus show markup. But so nice quick way, say you want to keep writing and have track changes going, you can actually shut off seeing it if it's too distracting for you, which often I do. Another thing you can actually do though is you can turn on and off the different types of feedback you're getting. So say you don't care about the insertions and deletions at this point. You click that, and even though they're all still there, they've disappeared on the markup. Or say you don't care about formatting, which is often very true. You just care about comments. And so there we go. I just turned it on, so now all I see are my comments. And you can just do this just through the selecting which things you want. Okay. Another thing to notice, you can actually set up how you want your information displayed to you. So I personally like having everything in balloons, having it separated, but you can actually also have everything in line. So you notice here, like for example here, the old version on this was this little track on behavior change. And then we shifted it. If with the balloons, this pops up as it pops out over here, but with other one you can see everything kind of tracked out. Finally, another really handy thing you can actually do is actually select, if you have lots of people reviewing a paper, see like this, you can actually shut off certain reviewers. So say you only want to read the reviews from, say, one person. So you go in here, oops, didn't do that. You go into here, the reviews, you deselect everybody, and then you can just put on, say I really want to hear what John's comments are right now. And actually, he did 2 versions, so he's got himself twice. But so here, now I see all of the work that John was doing in particular. So again, a nice, quick, easy way to actually keep yourself organized and know exactly what people are saying, particularly when you have a lot of people working on stuff. Track changes is very, very valuable. So, and a lot of times people just accept changes when it's getting too dirty for them, but really, a lot of times it's actually very valuable to keep track of these things. So, something to note there. One caveat with track changes, the more track changes you have in there, the more unstable the program will become. So, just a word of warning. Now another thing to notice, the other thing to notice is also, notice we actually have these 2 columns here. Something that a lot of times people forget to use is actually using the page layout. So you can see here it's actually very easy to create 2 columns. You just select how many columns you have for the paper. 2 columns tend to have a nicer, more professional look, say if you're going to submit something out, versus a 1 column look. Like here I just switched to 1 column. And this might be better for drafts 1 column, but ultimately the 2 column tends to have a cleaner look. So just something to think about for this. Okay, back to my 2 columns. You can adjust that. You can adjust your margins. A lot of times, you might need a wider margin than you might want, and just something important to focus on. Now, another thing to notice is actually the pictures. So a lot of times when you insert pictures, you can edit them quite a bit. So you'll notice here, when you click on this, you'll see that oftentimes there's this added option that's coming in. So like here, right now, I'm on the picture tools. So say I want to add something like a different border or background. That's what this stuff is for. But another very important thing is actually setting up where you exactly want the position. So say you want it on left or right flank or something of that sort versus in line. This actually has a very good effect on how you do it. Or sometimes maybe you actually want your text to be, your image to go above or below something. You can actually adjust this through this wrap text concept. So, and then you can even also crop your images. Say you don't actually want this whole thing, you just want, say, this part. And you can just quickly chop away and get exactly the image that you want, and then you can resize and whatnot. So nice, quick, easy thing to actually do a lot of very basics image work with it that I think a lot of times people don't necessarily fully take advantage of. Now, finally, the last thing I want to bring up, you guys have been working with reference management software, particularly Endnote. So beyond just organizing your references, Endnote also helps you create bibliographies. So I'm going to close this one up, and because this one's just kind of dirty to see. Now we're in this cleaner copy. Now you'll notice here I've got these numbers. These numbers are actually all created by Mendeley. And so what it does is it allows you to actually automatically create a reference list for your paper. So let me show you how to do that. So first of all, if you want to get, the first thing you have to do is actually install the Mendeley plugin. And so I've actually got a web link to this. You can go to the web link if you want. It's listed at the bottom of on this page. But just so you see it, this is what the page looks like in brief. And it's very easy, honestly. When you go into Mendeley, you just go into Tools, and for me it's uninstalled because I've already installed it, but if you don't have it installed, you just hit install MS plugin, and there you go, you're off to the races. So then any paper that you have in here, you can quickly actually cite this within this paper. So let's say, for example, I want to put our new reference here, and I know this was a paper by Abby King, for example. So what I can do is, it's either going to be put into add-ins or references. It's a little buggy. Sometimes it goes from one to the other. So just find wherever it is. But so you find this, then you just have this insert citation option. So first thing you want to do is actually pick your citation style. For right now, I wrote this for Computer Science Journal, so I'm using their conference thing. But you noticed you can have the American Psychological Association. You can have medical referencing formats. They're all in here. You just go into this More Styles option to find whichever one you want. For this assignment, I don't really mind just pick one. It doesn't really matter to me which one you want to use. I'm going to use ACM Sig Chi here. I'm going to insert this citation, and then notice this little thing pops up, and all you have to do is type in some words that you know are related to this. So I knew these were in the title, and I know that was her name. So just put it in, I hit OK, and voila, this little one was just added. So this created that reference list. Now, what also happens then, again, this was something we've already created. So, but say for this new one, I want to recreate this, get this going again. What I can actually do is, you see this little thing that just says Insert Bibliography. So you just hit that, and there we go. So now I've got this link up at the top, and then I've got it written up exactly as I want down here and formatted for me according to the reference style. So for your homework, what I want you guys to do is actually develop, I want you to write up a one-page summary of the stuff you've been doing so far related to your research. There's specific instructions on the format within the assignment. But for this one, really, I'm not focusing on the content. I'm focusing on your use of EndNote. And so things I want, and you'll see in the assignment, there's some specific assignments I want you to get into in terms of like how do you use the style, how do you use reference software, and all sorts of stuff like that. So we covered everything in here. So that's pretty much it for the Word assignment. One important thing to note, there are two parts to this assignment. One is you guys writing something up, but then the second part is actually you guys commenting and editing another one of your colleagues' work. So you guys are going to have to trade off on papers because you're going to have to use track changes. So all this is laid out in the assignment, though, so just take a look there. Okay? Thank you guys so much.